Well, who do I have here with me today? Mr. Ron Hill. I hear you're the most interesting man in the world, huh? And how did you get that?
Well, the Lakeland Ledger, a number of years ago, had heard about what I had accomplished in writing 5 books at the same time in my 80th year. And some of the people in the area said, well, that's Ron Heller. He's the most interesting guy in the world.
Wow.
And my wife read the article in the paper, which is right here. And she said, I've been living with you for 40 some years. And she said, I never found you very interesting at all.
It's
So she
always the
knows
way.
how to put you down just as soon as somebody.
Keep your feet on the ground.
Exactly. But it's sort of, it's like everything else. You get comments about your character or whatever, and you try to live up to them, really, especially if they're beneficial like that. As far as being interesting, I've had an interesting life, and so that's part of the.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Detroit. We came to the Motown back in 1939. My father was looking for work because it was the end of the Depression.
Oh, that's right.
And of course, the war just was right around the corner, and the auto industry switched over to making, munitions and things of that nature. So he got a good job there. And then after the war was over, though, he lost his job, but he hooked on with the J.L. Hudson Company, which was a large department store. And we lived in the Detroit area. I grew up in the Detroit area. So.
And you played baseball, I understand?
Well, interesting, Don. 1 month from now, I will have come to Lakeland in 1954, in March of 1954. That's 70 years ago.
Wow.
70 years ago. And I can still remember it like it was yesterday.
And what brought you to Lakeland?
Well, baseball, the Detroit Tigers. So it was interesting. I had an interesting career. Playing baseball for about 10 years, both amateur, semi-professional, professional. Then in the Army, I played for the All-Army baseball team. And I really enjoyed my life as a baseball player, but I'm glad I really didn't make it big because maybe I would have never become an author. And that was the thing that I feel best that anything that I've ever done is become a writer. And I really enjoy that.
Do you have any idea where you got that author bug?
Well, I always wrote. I wrote for newspapers, school newspaper. I wrote for a bowling alley bylines by Ron Heller, in the bowling business. And I wrote in college, and at various times I wrote radio scripts, television scripts. So I've always been a writer, but I never was a writer of novels. But my interests are not like the normal individual wants to be a writer. You think of Hemingway, or you think of Fitzgerald, or you think of some of the great writers. But I'm interested in finding out who I am and who we all are. And I look for various things that will help us grow in that one way, in that one capacity. And that's what my books are all about. Even when I wrote some murder mystery books and everything else, I still insert a little bit of the information on it. Here you see 5 of the books that were right here. This is a 2-page article in color that the Lakeland Ledger did for me, and then a couple of magazines also did something on it. And these were the 5 books that I wrote at that time in my 80th year.
80th year.
My
Wow.
80th year, I did 5 books and 5 different subjects. This is the one I'm most proud of, and that is A Remarkable Journey. This is the story of an atom of oxygen with 8 protons and 8 neutrons and 8 electrons, just like a normal atom of oxygen that we're breathing in right now. We're 78% nitrogen, 20.8% oxygen, and the rest is, you probably have a little bit of water vapor in there, and a few of the other elements are in there. But mostly the oxygen is what we need. And I take a story about just one little atom of oxygen and what happens to it, true to life, as it goes around the world.
What really, really happens in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And I gave it some little Hollywood treatment, give it a 13-year-old boy's persona. and he becomes a 13-year-old boy, just like a regular boy would be at 13 years of age. And he travels and he goes in, he sees girls, cute girls, and then he's in a leaf, he's in a bug, he's in all kinds of things. And it's so enjoyable to be able to read and see what is happening fictionally and then factually, what really transpires. That oxygen atom that's coming into your heart right now, as you're breathing in, it's coming into the right ventricle of your heart through the lungs. It's being cleared out because the old stuff had come all the way around your body. It's in your right atria, and then it's cleansed out, and you've got the new red blood cells coming into your body, swishing around and whatever else, and that atom of oxygen is there. Now it's a combined thing. There's one atom has to combine with two. It's a diatom. There are two different atoms that all come together. And so I mate them. I give them a mate, at various times in this book. And that's the cuteness of it. 52 weeks, what happens? And he has it like a brother atom that he's born with out of a child, and he wants to get back to his buddy, his brother. And he travels around the world looking for him all the time. And here, the brother, it stays in the same spot, it hardly even moves, But the other one traveled around the world. So it's a fascinating book in that respect.
So oxygen in real life, the oxygen comes in, it goes out, and someone else breathes it in, and it just floats and goes all over the world. So it's true.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so fascinating about it, and that's what I write about. I write about things that happen to us, so that I can get to know who I am. I can get to know who you are, how we can get to know who we are totally, and how we go back in history and what transpired in history thousands and thousands of years ago to get us to this point in this world. And then, of course, you want to find out about your local area. Like you're doing things for Lakeland. I am Lakeland. You're finding out things all about Lakeland. What a phenomenal town it's. Why did I move here? I moved to Lakeland because there's no other town better than this in the United States.
I got you. That's right.
And that's why we moved here. We loved it. We still love it. This is 40 years ago now that we moved here. Well, 42 years ago. So there's so many things that you can think about doing, and I enjoy that aspect of writing as I've aged. Now, my radio and television career was prior to coming down to Lakeland, primarily with the Panax Corporation in Michigan. And then I opened up my own company, R.W. Heller and Associates, and I opened up an advertising agency nationally. So I did television commercials for various companies like Champion Motorhomes, Auto Owners Insurance, etc. And I had clients all over the country. Then I could live any place actually and travel to my clients from wherever we live.
Yeah, I've seen your personality. I can see here that you were on radio and television back in the, was that 50s?
Well, that was 1959. That
1959?
was the Gold Coast Television Network. That was my first job. And actually, it was because it was the end of my baseball career. I had arm trouble. It was in the Pacific Coast League, San Francisco, Sacramento. And they said, you're through. And
You were a pitcher?
I wasn't even 25 years of age, yes. And they didn't have Tommy John surgery like they do today. And so I said, hey, well, I had to grin and bear it. Well, my buddy said, hey, why don't you come on? We're looking for a sports announcer. So they got me a job as a sports announcer for the Gold Coast Television Network. That's the area between San Francisco and Los Angeles. That there's two television stations that cover all of those towns there. And so I enjoyed that, but I wanted to go back and finish up my degree and get my master's in my own communication arts at UCLA. So I went back to school, finished it up, and then all of a sudden, of course, Uncle Sam said, I want you rather than me going back in my television career. So I went in the Army, and I spent my 2 years in the Army, as we were, because we were drafted years ago. And we had our military obligation. I enjoyed it, though. I really enjoyed my time in the service.
What job did they give you in the Army?
Well, at first it's odd because they had already designated me to become a spokesperson for the United States Army with radio and television commercials and things of that nature because of my background. Well, the adjutant in Los Angeles had put in for me at Fort Ord, the Army base in California is no longer in existence. And they said, put in your basic training, and then we'll have you here. You'll be permanently there.
Station here, not have to go.
Station anyplace else. Well, it didn't work. The adjutant was changed. A woman adjutant was there, and she didn't want me. And she said, forget it, we're not going to do any of the other sports things, and we don't need you for an announcer and all that. So I had to go and do my regular military obligation. But as things work out, they transfer me to Hawaii, and my permanent status, and I was on the All-Army baseball team.
That would have been horrible.
Oh, terrible.
Oh, horrible. Going to Hawaii.
And then, of course, I had to be in movies like with Blue Hawaii with Elvis Presley.
Oh, wow.
Gidget Goes Hawaiian.
That's horrible.
And it's just a terrible life, and living on the beach and things of that nature. That's terrible. And then I did a number of things. I was a spokesperson for the General of the Army, I.D. White at the time, and the Admiral of the Navy, Admiral Felt. And
you are the most interesting. You got me going.
A few other things
I'm serious.
At the same time. I was part of the All-Army Soldiers Chorus, and we did a number of recordings, things of that nature. But again, it's like everything. You're part of the United States Army, and you're happy to be a part of it. And of course, it was peacetime, which was really good, except that just at the end of my stay in the Army, that's when we had the Cuban crisis in Cuba, and that could have been problematic. I was extended for 90 days. I would have gotten out earlier, and I might have had a chance to get back and play some baseball, but I wasn't. I lost another season. I said, well, that's it, and that's the one thing you just can't do. You're too old. When you get to be 27 years of age, you're not going to make it in baseball unless you've already been up there, you know.
So you came to Lakeland, you started writing books?
Well, when I came to Lakeland, I was still in business. I had R.W. Heller and Associates throughout the country. And then I said, you know, what I want to do is maybe do a television show. And so I began putting things together to do a television show. And I wanted it to be sports, and I knew baseball, of course, but I also knew golf. And everybody said, come on, do the golf show, do the golf. So I did baseball and the various sports. And then the last part I would do golf. And then I switched it over. Let's Talk Golf was the first hour-long live television show in the country.
Live?
Yeah, we did it live beginning in 1986, I believe it is, out of Orlando.
Wow.
And then I switched over about 2 years later, and I did a cable operation where we did various cable shows throughout the entire state and syndicated it.
And so I guess you started writing books the whole time. You wrote books on the whole time while you're doing a career?
Well, I didn't begin writing books per se. I began a murder mystery back when I was still doing my television shows. And I would put notes away about it. And that's where this one came in. Was it Murder, the Moon, or the Bonnie Doon? I began writing that 40 years ago.
40 years ago?
40 years ago I started that book. And I finished it in 2014. So it took me about 30 years to write it. But I was looking for an ending, something different. And I kept looking and putting the notes aside. And finally I got around to putting it all together.
That's fantastic. What was your first book?
Well, my first book was a golf book because I was in the golf business. But then my first real book was 3 Minutes That Are Simply Fascinating. This did very, very well. That came out in 2002. And I sold about $50,000 worth, roughly. I think we were at $29.95 a book, whatever that was. And I only sold limited copies. It was out on Amazon, and there's still some copies on Amazon available.
What's it about?
Well, it's a self-help book. There are 60 different sayings in here about who we are, what we consist of, why we are what we are, whatever. It's a good, concise book, and I'm very proud of it because Imagine the most fascinating entity that we know about in the entire universe, the human brain. Think about it. Is there anything more enthralling, more captivating, more fascinating than oneself? Think about it. We are truly special because all of the best that has survived until now is part of us. Think about that. All the things that have happened on this earth, going back billions of years, really. And if you read one book, I said, read this book because it'll help. And it really did help a lot of people. I got replies from various individuals that said, hey, we read your book and we really loved it. And it really helped us a great deal.
That's got to be a great feeling.
So it's a type of thing. And so that's why I got around to starting this. And this is just a preview. Make Every Day Discovery Day. This is the first of 10 books that I've written in my 90th year, because I'm now in my 90th year. And this is a book that really takes off from here and takes all the various topics that I had in this book and really embellishes them over like 600,000 words that are in 10 different books. But you can buy them individually. So I pointed that out with this first one. I got this out, even though it wasn't really totally complete, but it's a little teaser. Make Every Day Discovery Day. And that's the whole idea.
I agree.
Make every day Discovery Day. See, people finding out things about Lakeland, right? You find out things about Lakeland every day.
Mm-hmm. I just read Crest building. I did my research this morning on Crest. Who was this Crest guy? It's got that beautiful building over there. It was a five and dime store.
Yes.
Five and dime store, way before my time.
Yeah.
But it's sitting right here in the middle of Lakeland.
When I was here, and Lakeland and I were right on here at Munn Park, we were watching the girls go by, and hey, girls, stop and get us. We went right across the street over to SS Kresge and Crest in the Crest store, and bought whatever.
So you've been in there when it was a Crest store.
When it was a Crest store.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's the Lakeland that I'm still learning now.
Actually, where we are right now was a drugstore years ago.
Yeah, there's a post office as well, I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine the history that's been in this beautiful
Well, it's
town?
The history of everything. That's what everything is so fascinating. That's why people who are they have everything to look forward to. They should not complain about anything, no matter who you are or what you are, because there's so much out there. We're living in the early part of the 21st century. And just think about where we've come in the last 100 years, where we were 200 years ago, where we were 300 years ago. We're here in air-conditioned and heating comfort. Wonderful place, the whole bit. In a beautiful town, which has got wonderful weather in the whole bit. And we can pick and choose our places. We can come to work and do things where we don't have slave labor and whatever else. At least not too much, at least in this country. We live in the greatest area, the greatest country, at the greatest time. There's nothing to complain about. That's what makes the world so wonderful. And that's what makes making Every Day Discovery Day, because you discover something phenomenal every day.
I agree.
About yourself, everything.
That's wonderful. Well, I also know that you have a local newsletter that comes out 3 minutes. What's about that?
3 minutes as a publication I began around 22, 23 years ago. And the idea was to take something that you can read in about 3 minutes. Just having a cup of coffee and you want to read something and you read about 3 minutes. Primarily humorous stories. People love humorous stories. Little Johnny stories. For example, little Johnny says, hey, Dad, as he sees his dad coming out of the shower, and he notices his middle toe is black and blue. He says, why do you think God made toes? His father said, I don't know, Johnny. What do you think? Well, what do you think? Do you think, why did God make toes? He says, I think God made toes so you could find the furniture in the middle of the night.
Ain't that the truth?
And it was all, So it's cute little stories like that. And then I put a little bit of golf business in there because my television show for those 20 years and radio shows was about golf. And it's a sport that I enjoy. It's not that I was a professional, although I was classified a professional because I won this one tournament with so much money. It was over a certain amount, and so I had to be a professional for a while. But I really wasn't that good. So, but I enjoy the game, and that's the main thing.
That's right.
Enjoying what you're doing. So I couldn't play baseball anymore, but I could play golf. And that's one of the things. Is one of the reasons why a lot of the baseball players play golf.
I see that after their career.
Yeah, or even while they're playing baseball, they'll learn how to play golf a little bit, and then after their career, they can play a lot.
Absolutely.
And they're usually pretty good too.
And that newsletter can be found all around Mitchell, Divicious, all around
150 different locations throughout Lakeland. Now, I used to have it in Plant City, in Auburndale, in Winter Haven, and throughout the Polk County and in the bordering areas like Plant City. But I've confined it recently in the last 5-10 years to just Lakeland and 150 different locales. Restaurants, barbershops, beauty shops, hospitals, medical facilities, dental offices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that way people are sitting, waiting, and they can read something. For example, you go into the hospital, and there's nothing worse than just sitting there thinking about
the issues that you have a problem with. Yeah.
Right. But you read something funny, and it gets you at least forgetting about your own troubles, and you feel better. And that's what's so good. And then, of course, also for places like the homes they have for the elderly. Now, you'll notice I've talked about active aging, the ageless author. I try to write for especially those men and women as they get to retirement because they seem lost. They just don't have the same motivation that they had when they were younger. And they all just seem to feel life is over with, for them. And it's not. It's beginning. It's even better. And I try to point that out. And I can say this truthfully, Matt, since I was 55, that's usually our senior year type of thing.
That's how old I am.
That's 55, your best years are coming.
Are you serious?
That's what's so great about it. The best years are coming. 55, and then try to make it to 100, and then go from there. Now just think about that. 100 years ago, we were trying to make it to 60 without too much trouble. In 1924, a person was sitting there at 50, 55, and he said, geez, I just hope I can make it to 60. Today, we're sitting in there right here, and I'm saying, I'm going to try to make it to 100. That's the whole idea. Now, if I make it longer than that, great. If I don't make it that long, that's okay too. But I've already had nearly 90 great years, you see. So you can't complain about it.
That's
but the idea is it doesn't make any difference. The years make no difference. What's really important
Make every day discovery day.
Exactly. How you enjoy the day. How you wake up in the morning. Instead of saying, good God, is it morning? Say, good morning, God.
It's a natural incentive to see tomorrow's going to be better than today.
Yeah.
So if you get up with that attitude of, I'm
Have
enjoying
a song
this.
in your heart and on your lips. Always be thinking positive. Jimmy Durante, one of the great comedians and actors years ago, and a lot of people today just don't know about Jimmy Durante, but I grew up with him, of course, and he was much older than me. He's been deceased now for probably 40 or 50 years at least. But he used to say, you got to wake up each day with a song. Even if things go wrong, you'll feel better. You'll even look better, And of course, he was not exactly the handsomest of all men. And he used to make fun of his nose and the whole bit. But that was part of it. See how he enjoyed his life. And that's what's really great.
Yeah, these are just the means by which we get to live. These bodies, it's our mind, it's our experience that's important.
Yeah.
And I know that you get in detail about our brain and how our brain is wired and how many.
Well, it's all part of it. You are your brain. You don't use your brain. You are your brain. And the brain, of course, is this phenomenal entity. It's only 3 pounds or so if you were to weigh it. It's 6 onion skin-like layers, all convoluted, with 2 frontal, 2 parietal, 2 occipital, and 2 temporal lobes with a connecting corpus callosum that lets the left hemisphere know what the right hemisphere is doing. So we know what we're doing all the time. It's the text and the context, you see. And we have different parts to that. Mostly the emotional brain is what really sets us off. We have the amygdala, we have the hippocampus, we have the hypothalamus and the thalamus. Those areas are our emotional brain. And that's the thing that makes life worthwhile. If we didn't have them, we would be like let's see, you can go back up. Even fish have some limbic portion of their brain. You'd have to go way back to bugs and that don't have any emotional type of brain. But the brain is constantly learning. We have about 100 billion neurons that are thinking cells that we're born with.
I know some people that don't have that many.
Well, yeah, you got that right. So, but actually, we're born, and then in the first 2 years, we lose about 18 billion of them, these neurons. So we end up with about around 82, 84 billion neurons. Just like we're born without kneecaps, but we grow the kneecaps.
Never heard that before.
Yeah. You don't have kneecaps when you're born. So, but the brain is constantly growing, constantly developing. One of the things about it, here's something that you can find out today. This is for our audience and for you. When you have stress, and you need to be at an appointment, and there's no way you can make it there, and you're caught in traffic and whatever, the stress becomes tremendous. Well, the stress means that automatically your body goes into a control, so that cortisol is sent from your adrenal glands through your body to assuage this tension and everything that you have, this anxiety you have. Well, at the same time, your brain shuts off. Instead of making new neurons, it shuts off. And because every time you have stress, it shuts your brain down. So when you say you have started having dementia, that's the reason for it. It's the stress that's causing it. Now, of course, we have the stress through life, but there's a lot of stress that
Marriage.
You can't. Well, you always got to have that. But you can reduce stress by doing little things. For example, if you're always late or always running late, get up an hour earlier. Do things that you don't create the stress in your body. That way your brain has a chance to relax. And I'll tell you one thing, Don. Making Everyday Discovery Day is going to help you 25 years from now to live a really good life and not have filled with dementia. It will help you in that. It's not going to guarantee anything, but it's going to help you with it. There's a lot of things we've got to learn, a lot of get to know when it comes to our health, and especially with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. But this helps very definitely.
I'm convinced
the
that
people that are brighter, whatever, are going to be able to be the individuals that will stay more alert.
Yeah, the more you use your mind and your brain, the more it's going to want to.
Also, don't take drugs, any type of drugs. Over-the-counter drugs sometimes are necessary at a particular time. There's no doubt about that. We live in this wonderful day and age where we can take this. If we didn't, like 100 or 200 or 500 years ago, you have to suffer through it. Then that suffering becomes stressful. That is even worse. Then you really shut down your brain and you shut down your life. That's why people didn't live more than 40, 45 years.
Yeah.
Today we have to be, concerned with all that.
It's incredible. So what's in the future? What books or what's in the future? What are we going to?
Well, first of all, my hope is that we have 10 books come out this year, all in one. And you could buy it, Make Everyday Discovery Day. The entire book will be out at the end of this year. And then for those who want to buy them individually, they say, hey, I don't want a big, thick book. maybe I just want to spend $10, they'll be able to buy them individually.
That
So
is
they'll have 10
fantastic.
different books. So the idea is just to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
helping mankind.
Helping,
This is
helping
helping
myself, helping you, helping everybody. That's the whole idea.
All right. Well, and everybody can go to rwheller.com to
Right.
see your books and get your
Right.
movie, and get your videos.
Right, and they can order from there, and then they'll be available, of course, on Amazon and various places by the end of the year.
And
But you can buy a preview right now, this one here, by just logging on to rwheller.com.
yes, and we're in the midst of digitizing some of your old stuff, so it'll be entertaining as well for people to see
Enjoy
pretty
it,
soon.
yeah. Don,
Thank you, Ron.
All right, buddy.
Have a fantastic day, and God bless.
Thank you.